Hello and welcome to the Savannah Hermitage. Today we are going to do a practice where we are integrating sitting meditation with a Taoist internal alchemy qigong practice called the microcosmic orbit. That's the microcosmic orbit. And so, to start out with, let me just point out that I am sitting in a traditional meditation posture with a meditation mat below me, a meditation bench, otherwise known as a seiza bench, in a kneeling posture. This is a very good posture. You want a good meditation posture where your hips are fully supported, preferentially your knees lower than your hips so that your spine is straight and it takes the pressure off your low back. Of course, another traditional sitting meditation posture is sitting on a meditation cushion or zafu cushion in a cross-legged or a variation of lotus position. Another position you can do, especially if you're not an experienced meditator and you don't have this kind of meditation equipment to do a good sitting meditation posture as I'm doing right now, is that you can just sit in a chair in an upright position with your spine straight and your head straight as I'm sitting now, but just sitting in a chair, legs apart, feet on the floor, soles toward the ground. This is a book that Montauk Chia, a Taoist master, published in 1983. It was the first book he published, and it's based on the microcosmic orbit as the fundamental Taoist internal alchemy qigong practice of how we work with and engage and deploy our consciousness. So this is the book, and you might be able to see he shows a practitioner on here basically sitting on a type of a chair or in a chair position like I just mentioned, sitting on the edge of it with the feet down and the spine straight. If you look closely, you can also see these different energy centers or centers of consciousness that are the different energy centers or centers of consciousness that we're going to focus on activating and engaging in this practice of circulating energy through the microcosmic orbit using visualization and breath work. All right then. Let's go ahead and start with that. So let's just get in our meditation position here. You can hold your hands, a traditional Taoist posture that is in this book is putting just right palm over left palm and holding it like this around typically your navel or your solar plexus. The navel being called the Dan Qian in qigong. Another posture, mudra with the hands that you can use is a traditional Buddhist one, which is just left fingers over right fingers and thumbs together like that. Wrists resting on the top of the thighs. Or you can also just rest your hands on your thighs like so. Face down. Any one of those can work just fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use visualization to focus on each one of these energy centers, also called chakras in Hindu yoga traditions, which are essentially centers of our consciousness. Many of them are located along the spine and on the head or in the brain. So we're working with our brain and spinal cord primarily with this, which is our central nervous system, which of course is how we think, is connected with our entire nervous system of our body and our entire energy field, and how we relate to ourselves and the world around us. So this is our consciousness in action. And what we are doing in this practice is activating and channeling the flow of our consciousness in a direction that raises our consciousness to a higher level and also activates and empowers our consciousness. So the first energy center or consciousness center that we're going to focus on in qigong, it's called the Dan Qian. That's Chinese qigong, and it's at the navel, or actually just very slightly below the navel, and inside the body, just a small amount, like maybe a half an inch or an inch. You can visualize that just at the navel or just slightly below the navel and slightly inside the body. This is actually going to be the end point of our practice, where we store the energy, the life force energy, which is the energy of our consciousness, at the end of the microcosmic orbit practice. But we're going to start by just focusing and activating that endpoint and storage point. So just take a deep breath and get focused. And now focus your attention on the Dan Qian, on that point, and visualize it being filled with energy and light. You can picture white light or yellow light. I would suggest white light especially, glowing in that energy center and activating and empowering and fortifying that energy center with the energy of your consciousness, visualizing white light in that center. And take a couple deep breaths, continuing to visualize the energy in that center, and visualize and imagine it activating, the energy of it activating. Okay, so when you're ready, let's go ahead and go to the starting point, which is going to be at our genitals, our sexual organs. This is an important point because as human beings, our sexual energy is an important and fundamental aspect of our overall life force energy and our consciousness. And it's also, our sexual energy is also very integrated with our emotional energy as well, which all our emotional energy, all our emotions, all that energy is very fundamental to the functioning of our consciousness. So with this energy center, tune into your sexual organs and just visualize where they are, their different parts, and the energy that you feel there. And it doesn't have to be any certain way, just tune into it, visualize it, feel it, and visualize that white light of your consciousness filling your genitals, your sexual organs, with the energy of your consciousness and activating that energy center of your sexual energy. And take a couple deep breaths to do that. Focus right in on it. We're using visualization and breath to do this. So with your in-breath, draw energy in and focus energy in. And then with your out-breath, just focus it all the more in that point. Now we'll move to the next point, which is your perineum or perineum. That's located exactly midpoint between your genitals and your anus on the very floor of your pelvic floor. It's that midpoint. It's also known as the root chakra. So that connects us with the earth. You can visualize a root going down from that center into the earth. And right now we're activating that point as our second point in the microcosmic orbit. So focus on that point. Focus the white light of your consciousness going into that point, and take a couple of deep breaths, visualizing that point being filled with light, filled with energy, filled with the power of your consciousness at the perineum. And you can visualize both of those first 2 points, your sexual organs and the perineum, both charged and glowing with energy. And now let's go to the third point, which is the tip of your coccyx. The coccyx is the very bottom tip of your spine. It's your tailbone. So that's right at the top of the crevice of your buttocks. And so that's the next point. And you can reach back like I just did and touch it and help that tune into it. That will help you tune into it, of course. So let's focus on that point and do the same thing with a couple deep breaths. White light of your consciousness. Filling and empowering it with energy, fortifying it, and most importantly, activating it. And visualize those first 3 points being activated. Each activated and lit up with the energy of your consciousness. Glowing white light, balls of light at those points. So now you have basically your entire pelvic floor from back to front with those first 3 points activated. Now we're going to go up the spine, and the fourth point is directly in the small of your back, which is directly opposite the Dan Shen, which we activated first as the end point. So this point you can reach around like I'm doing to kind of sight it in, directly opposite here. And it's right in the small of your back. So that's the fourth point. Focus in that right on your spine, right on your spinal cord there. Focus on that point, activating that point like a ball of light, just visualizing it, and with your breath, pushing energy right into that, activating it like a glowing ball of light of your consciousness. And you don't have to necessarily feel anything when you're doing this. You might feel it, but you don't have to feel anything. This is all visualization. And if you're a skeptic, you might be saying, oh, this is just all in my mind. This is all just in his mind. And you're exactly right. It is all just in our minds. This is our mind bodies being activated. This is our consciousness being activated. This is us directing and shaping and moving our consciousness and cultivating higher and higher levels of self-focus, self-discipline, and self-mastery of our consciousness, which, yes, it's all in our minds. It's all in our central nervous system of our brain, spinal cords, and our entire mind-body consciousness and energy field. Okay, so we're focusing on that fourth point, opposite the Dan Qian in the small of the back. Now we're going to go up the spine a bit, which is exactly opposite the solar plexus. So the solar plexus is right here at the base of the sternum, your central bone right here. Right at the base of it is the solar plexus. So this point is exactly opposite the solar plexus, right on the spine in your spinal cord. So you can reach around with opposite hands like I'm doing and sight it in, and then just visualize that point glowing with the light of your consciousness and fully activating. And use your breath to do that. Use your breath to move. Visualize that energy moving right in there and activating. And continue taking deep breaths. Now visualize all it's all 5 of those points now that we've done. All 5 of those points. You can start with the first one and boom, 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 boom. Visualize them lighting up like Christmas lights. The genitals, the perineum, the coccyx, small of the back, and mid-back opposite the solar plexus. Boom, 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 boom. Activation, 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 activation. Now we're going to go up to the 6th point, which is the notch in the base of your skull. This is an important point because this is where your skull, or where your spine and your spinal cord, which connects your brain and your consciousness to your entire body and energy field. That's where your spinal cord connects into your brain. So right in that notch at the back center of the base of your skull, you can press your fingers in there. That's the 6th point. And do the same thing with that. Visualize it activating with the brilliant white light of your consciousness. Along with the previous 5 points as well. Just visualize all of them activated and lit up. Okay, now the 7th point, you can take your index fingers, put them on the highest point of the center of your head up there. So when your head's straight up like it is like mine, it'll be the highest point in the ridge, a bit forward from the place where your hair spirals. It's just a bit forward from that, the very top of your head. So that is the 7th point. This is also known as the crown chakra. So visualize that point activating. Visualize a ball of white light activating and fortifying that point. And also with this one, you can visualize the whole top of your head, kind of that whole top of your brain being filled with that fortified energy of your consciousness and activating. this is the part of our brain that is especially involved in the higher consciousness, characterized by the upper chakras. The higher chakras being that crown chakra that we are activating right now. And then also moving now to the 8th point in the center of your forehead, right where I'm pointing right now. It's also known as the brow chakra or the third eye chakra. Focus on that and focus on that point activating. Activating, opening, filled with the power and light of your consciousness. And visualize all the previous 7 along with that 8. Boom, 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 boom. All lit up like Christmas lights. And just visualize them right now as I am doing, all activated and lit up. Okay, so that is the first part, and that's actually the core part of the microcosmic orbit. So when we connect the entire orbit, we are going to run energy through, and we're going to visualize our consciousness running our energy through all of those first 8 points as a conduit. So most of that is our spinal cord and our brain, except for the bottom part, which is our pelvic floor. So we move the energy from our sexual organs through the perineum to the coccyx. That whole area houses and represents much of our emotional energy and, of course, also our sexual energy. So what we're doing is taking all that energy of the lower passions and of the lower chakras, and we're moving it up our spine through all these energy centers and up into our upper chakras and our higher consciousness. So when we move that energy up, we are literally transmuting the lower passions, all that emotional and sexual energy. We are literally transmuting it into the higher consciousness of our upper chakras and our higher consciousness centers. Especially the crown chakra and the brow chakra or third eye chakra, which are the 7th and 8th points here. So when we move the energy up, visualize those points and actually your entire brain, especially the top part of your brain here, filling with that energy. So we're taking our sexual and emotional energy down here, moving it. Well, first of all, we're conserving it, we're cultivating it, and then we're moving it and transmuting it inward and upward into the higher energy centers with our in-breath. So it's like this. And then with our out breath, we let it flow down the front of our body and store it at the Dan Qian, or the belly chakra that we first activated. And that's the microcosmic orbit. We're going to open a few energy centers in that out breath, moving the energy down the front as well here in a moment. But that's the orbit. And let me just talk a little bit more about what we're doing with the energy of the lower passions, which is our emotional and sexual energy. Normally, we're used to expressing that energy out. We express our emotional energy out. We express our sexual energy out. That's what we're accustomed to doing. What we're doing with the microcosmic orbit, we're doing basically the opposite. Instead of just more mindlessly expressing and expelling that energy outward, our emotional and sexual energy, we're doing exactly the opposite. We're conserving it, we're fortifying it, we're cultivating it, and instead of moving it outward and downward, we're moving it inward and upward and transmuting it into higher consciousness. So our sexual and emotional energies are very powerful. It's like rocket fuel for our consciousness. But we can also only use it to raise our consciousness and move into a much higher state of consciousness if we're very conscious about how we use it. If we mindlessly just express it and expel it and indulge in it, and indulge in lust and desire and all these emotions without being in control of it especially, then we're just wasting all that energy. We're wasting all that rocket fuel. So what we're doing instead is we're conserving and fortifying and cultivating that rocket fuel of our consciousness, which is in a fairly raw form, but then we're refining it by moving it inward and upward, up the spine, into our upper chakras, our upper energy centers, moving it inward and upward. And so you've seen classical photos of the Buddha sitting in meditation, or Jesus or other saints, masters, and so forth, with a ball of light, an orb of light around their head. They're sitting in meditation like this with an orb of light, classical Buddha pose, orb of light. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what that is. That orb of light is what's called samadhi consciousness sometimes, but it's that upper chakra, in Ayurveda, the sattvic level of consciousness. And that's what we're very powerfully engaging and empowering by doing this meditation integrated with the microcosmic orbit practice of Taoist internal alchemy qigong. So this practice, I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I've literally rewired my consciousness by doing this practice. And it is the fundamental way in which I engage with my own consciousness and with the world around me 24/7 all the time. And it's completely revolutionized my life and has enabled me to become an empowered and more enlightened and far more successful human being in every aspect of my life. Very much credit it. Other practices as well, but very much to this practice, and making the microcosmic orbit the fundamental practice of my consciousness and actually of my life. So, once again, let's go back to that. So with the in-breath, we're starting at the sexual organs, moving through the pelvic floor inward, through the perineum to the coccyx, up the spine, and into the upper energy centers of basically the brain and the crown chakra and the brow chakra. And that's with the in-breath. So focus in on your sexual energy and your sexual organs. And also visualize that connected with your pelvic floor. Okay. And then with your in-breath, take all that energy, all that sexual energy, all that emotional energy, and just visualize it moving right up your spine with the in-breath, filling your brain, filling these upper energy centers. And then with the out-breath, it's more gentle. Just let it flow down the front of your body and store it here at the Dan Chen. And that's the microcosmic orbit. So let's activate these front energy centers now. And by the way, we're utilizing the prime meridians of traditional Chinese qigong philosophy, medicine. The back one, of course, is the governor channel or the back channel. The front one is, well, it's the front channel. And what's the other name for that? Let me look really quick. Oh, yes, the functional channel, of course. The front channel, functional channel. So now we're going to activate 3 points on the functional channel. So we're moving the energy then from the 8th point, the 7th and 8th points here with the out breath down. And so the next one down with the out breath is right here at the cleft. You know, that indentation right here in your throat. So that's also known as the throat chakra. So as we've done with the previous 8 points, here on the 9th point, use your breath and visualization to activate that point with your the energy of consciousness, ball of white light. Okay, good. Let's move down then. The very center of your chest, the very center of your sternum here, otherwise known as the heart chakra. That's the next one. Do the same thing right there, visualizing that energy center being empowered and activated. Okay. And then we're going to go down to the one we started with, the Dan Chen, or the belly chakra. Just at the navel, or very, very slightly below the navel, and inside a little bit. So let's just visualize that one the same way. Activating. And with this, so this is the end point where we'll finally bring the energy back down and store it there. We're going to be doing that on the out breath. So with the out breath, you're going to be bringing all that energy from up here and just allowing it to flow down and visualizing it with the out breath going down here and then boom. Like I'll do that with my right fist and then fist over top of it and just be like, okay, just pressing it right in there. And with your out breath, you're going to press your breath the whole way out. And so naturally, you're going to press it out with the muscles of your belly here, which also push your diaphragm up, emptying your lungs. So when you breathe out fully with the out breath of the microcosmic orbit, push that belly in the whole way, like so. And so your belly naturally presses right in there and naturally presses that energy right in there. physical action is actually doing it. But at the same time, visualize it happening. The energy coming down and then pressing right in there, and like a ball of dense energy right there. And in traditional Chinese philosophy, medicine, qigong, that's your core energy center right there. So that's our end point. We bring the energy up, transmuting into higher consciousness, and then we breathe it down the front and store it at the Dan Chen. Other options is that you can actually direct the energy anywhere you want. Instead of storing it here, you can also fill your whole body and energy field with the energy, with the out breath. If you feel like you need more energy up here, you can leave the energy up here. Although, be cautious with that, because if you do that too much, it can be unbalancing to your consciousness. It can be mentally and psychologically unbalancing if you force too much energy up. For many, many years, me doing this practice, I never had any issue with that. But eventually, after doing it, like probably 17 or 18 years, I started needing to focus on moving the energy down more, because I was just packing too much energy up here. So just something to be aware of. So you can move the energy down. You can also move the energy down and move it and visualize it all going into the earth. In a little bit, I'll show you a variation, a grounding variation of this where you can do that. But right now, we're just going to do the whole microcosmic orbit. So again, with the in-breath, starting at the genitals with your sexual energy, tune in with that energy, and then move it inward through the pelvic floor, inward and upward with your in-breath. And then with your out-breath, allow it to go down the front of the center of your body and store it here. It's pretty simple. And you don't need to visualize all those energy centers that I was talking about to do that. You only need to start here at your sexual organs, at your sexual energy, move it inward and upward, and then move it downward. That's all you have to do. You don't have to visualize the different energy centers. You just need to move that energy up, fill your brain basically with the in-breath, and then visualize it going down with the out-breath, and that's it. That's all you have to do. And so I'm going to do hand motions like this with the in-breath and then with the out-breath. And one thing I'm going to do to slow down the breath, you can use what's called Ujjayi breath in yoga, which is basically you just constrict the back of your throat and you tighten the air channel, and it actually makes sort of a hissing noise when you do it, when you breathe in then. It's also called, it also can be called ocean breath, because it makes a noise, or a sound, I should say, kind of like an ocean wave coming in on the beach. So I don't know if the microphone will pick that up or not, but I will do that. And breathe slowly and very deeply in and out. One more thing that you can try too while we're doing this, which I would definitely recommend trying, and it's recommended by Montauk Chia in this book to do this, is that you use your tongue as a switch between the in-breath up and the out-breath down. And the way you do that is you keep your tongue flat off of your palate during the up in-breath, and then you touch the tip of your tongue to the top of your palate with the out breath. And the idea is that when you do that, it's like completing an electrical circuit. When you touch your tongue to the top of your palate, which then connects the circuit from your brain down to your Dan Shen. Okay. So, this is a lot of information, but you can go back and watch this video as many times as you want, and pause it and whatever. So, for all these different aspects that I'm talking about. Okay, so let's do the whole microcosmic orbit now. Empty your lungs, focus in on the sexual organs, the sexual energy, and in breath up, inward and upward. Out breath down. In breath up. Out breath down. In breath up. Out breath down. In breath up. Out breath down. So keep doing that. One more thing is that you can slow this way down too, which is very good because we're integrating this with sitting meditation. And in sitting meditation, it's very good to slow down the breath because it helps focus your mind and slow down what's sometimes called the monkey mind of your consciousness that's going this way and that all the time. Slow everything down, slow down your consciousness. So with that ujjayi or ocean breath that I mentioned, you can slow your breath way down. Or you don't even need to use that necessarily if you can just slow your breath way down. So now I'm going to go slower, and I'm going to use that ujjayi ocean breath to slow my breath way down and continue to do the microcosmic orbit as I've described. So pause, and then out breath. Pause, in breath. Pause, out breath. So go ahead and keep doing that. So what I would normally do in a sitting meditation is I would set a timer. You can use your phone. I use my phone sometimes. Sometimes I use an old phone that is disconnected that I just use for a timer and an alarm clock. Typically, a typical sitting meditation, I can sit and do that for 25 minutes, set the timer for 25 minutes. For a longer meditation, then after the 25 minutes, do 10 minutes of walking meditation and maintaining the breath work, the microcosmic orbit the whole time. And then come back after 10 minutes and do another 25 minutes. So that does a whole hour. You can do this any period of time though. And you can do this, you can do it 24/7 out of the day. You can do it while you're driving, as long as it doesn't compromise you're paying attention to the road. You can do it while you're at work. You can do it anytime. And in fact, what I do is I my intent that my microcosmic orbit is open 24/7. And you can do that by just saying to yourself and setting your intent, my intent is that my microcosmic orbit will be open and functioning 24/7, all day, every day. And the power of your consciousness and your will actually sets that as your intent then. So, after we close here, then you can go ahead and then set your timer and just do this. And that's going to be your practice of integrating sitting meditation with the microcosmic orbit. Also, refer to my video on proper sitting meditation posture and equipment for information all about that, so that you can have an effective, the fundamentals for an effective sitting meditation practice. So just to close, I'm going to add one more addition to the practice. We have been doing the microcosmic orbit, and there's also the macrocosmic orbit, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but the macrocosmic orbit basically integrates that microcosmic orbit, which is just this loop, with your arms and your legs, and the earth, and the sun and the moon, and the entire universe. So with this practice, and again, I'm not going to go into detail, but you can look it up in information like this book that I referred to by Montauk Chia. With the macrocosmic orbit, I'm going to be doing the microcosmic orbit, but I'm going to be doing that, but at the same time, and I'm going to be drawing the energy of the earth, the sun, the moon, cosmos, the entire universe, through my palms, up through the soles of my feet and my legs, with the in-breath, combining with the microcosmic orbit, moving inward and upward on the in-breath. And then with the out-breath, I'm going to be moving the energy down the front, like we've been doing, and also moving the energy out the legs and arms and hands and feet into the earth, and also connecting with the sun and the moon and the cosmos, especially with the upper energy centers. And focusing on the drawing energy up from the earth with this, with the in-breath, and then giving the energy all back down into the earth with the out-breath. That makes the practice of the microcosmic orbit, utilizing the macrocosmic orbit, a very grounding practice. Very grounding practice with the energy of the earth and also the cosmos. And this is especially recommended if you got too much energy up here, and you need to ground that energy. You can do it this way. So let's just do a couple of deep breaths in closing here of the macrocosmic orbit. In breath, drawing up from the earth through the microcosmic orbit. And down the front and down into the depths of the earth. Out through the hands and feet, legs and arms. And again. Couple more times. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath into the earth. And keep deep breathing through your whole life. And keep moving your energy like that with your whole life, and use it to cultivate higher levels of self-focus, self-discipline, self-mastery, cultivating your consciousness to become the most empowered and enlightened human being you can be. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a magnificent day. Namaste.